On Thursday, September 10th, we have another day that the moon will be in Gemini. Again, curiosity will be piqued. We're more open to bringing new information in. We definitely are chatty Cathys. We're being a little bit more social because we have information that we want to learn and we have information that we want to share. So it's a high curiosity point in the lunar phase where we really want to dive into new material that we might be putting off. We want to open our minds to new ways of doing things. And we definitely want to focus on communication. Gemini does rule over communication in all its forms. We're speaking very fluidly. We're able to write in a manner that our words are understood. So it's definitely going to be a good time to think about sharing and collaborating with other people. Now, Venus and Neptune are making an aspect that day where we might get lost in a delusion of happiness. And here's what I will say. So Venus being the goddess of love and money and beauty and long-term commitments and pleasure and joy and all those wonderful things, Neptune is kind of dreamy and very imaginative, very illusionative, and one to want to escape reality. So at this particular point in the week, we might just be finding that we're escaping reality and we're kind of moving inward in our imaginary lands, and we're kind of focused on seeing what we want to see instead of reality as it actually is. And so there's a high tendency to kind of gloss over, reality as it is, gloss over the details that, are very important that we might actually need to absorb to make further decisions. But we're not about that on that day. We're definitely just kind of dreamy, floating away in imaginary land, and really rooted in even a false sense of happiness. Not that that's a bad thing, but we do have to wake up from those illusions eventually. And that particular energy can also cause a little bit of problems because we tend to want to buy things. We have an impulsive urge to just buy things that we find are beautiful or we find bring us a false sense of happiness. And it's actually best to avoid making purchases while Venus and Neptune are doing this little dance in the cosmos. We also want to kind of avoid relationship issues where commitments are concerned. So because we're kind of lost in this delusion of happiness, we might actually feel like our romantic connections or our relationships are in a happier place than they actually are. Again, delusions are very high with Neptune. So we want to be cautious of A, not being impulsive, especially where our spending is concerned. B, not being impulsive in making larger commitments to those that we love in relationship statuses that we might not be able to fulfill later on once the delusion and imaginary land fade away. And we want to make sure that we avoid financial commitments of any kind. Again, we are not thinking clearly. We are not focused on the details, and things can get a little bit overwhelming and a little bit blurry. So we definitely want to avoid committing to legal or financial agreements. Also on that day, Mercury will be opposing Chiron. So Mercury, again, ruling over the mental plane, ruling over information and communication, is at odds with Chiron, the wounded healer planetoid. And so misunderstandings are highly probable because we're taking things a little bit too personal. We get our feelings hurt. We're very sensitive that day. We're not expressing ourselves properly. And in turn, we're not really receiving other people expressing themselves too well. Because again, we're taking everything to heart. We're taking everything way too personally, and we can get offended way easier than normal. And that is saying something, because if you haven't noticed, this world, everybody seems to have an opinion, and everybody seems to be very, very heartbroken when somebody else has an opinion or an idea that is different than theirs. So on Thursday, we have to make sure that, we go into the day understanding that everything's a little foggy, everything's a little, hazy, and that we're not going to be heard. We're not going to be understood the way that we're hoping for. And we really just have to recognize that we are going to feel a little bit chaotic. We are going to feel very indecisive. And because we're not connecting with other people on the same wavelength and being understood and being heard, we are going to feel a little bit emotionally detached from the world around us.